Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Red Donkey Projections. I'm Eric and we have Lucas as always.
Hey everyone.
So what we're going to be talking about today is a political presidential prediction map done by Niskanen. This was a new website we discovered and it was a pretty good map, so we decided to take a look about it and talk about what we agree with and what we disagree with.
We'll be taking a look at each state, what they put it as, saying whether or not we agree with it, with what we disagree with, and we'll be analyzing this map that they put forth. And with that being said, let's get right into it. So I guess I'll start out by saying that for the most part, we do agree with this map. I think it's a pretty good map. They've accurately represented most of these states here. Like the states, the safe states in particular, I think they did a good job of characterizing all of them correctly. Yeah, I think they did a pretty good job.
Yeah.
Now, let's talk about the likely states now. The state of Minnesota, they put as likely D. I definitely agree with that there. Because I think that as a result of the recent protests with George Floyd, as well as Donald Trump's dwindling approval rating, I believe that this was the right choice to put here. What do you think, Eric?
Yeah, this is what we would probably put in our own predictions nowadays, because of all the police brutality that happened with George Floyd and the outbreaks of the protests. And this is, of course, the epicenter of the whole movement, so it makes sense how this will be a likely state.
I definitely agree, and this is what we put in our predictions as well. Now heading to the state of Nevada. I do also think is a likely at this point because Nevada polling does tend to lean to the Republicans. Again, we can't solely rely on polling data because in 2016 we actually saw Donald Trump projected to win the state according to polling, but obviously Hillary pulled out a win at the end of the day. But we got to take a look at past elections, demographics, and using that, we think that Nevada will probably be going to Joe Biden this time around as well. Colorado, New Mexico. These were two interesting states that they put as safe. Usually we put the states as likely. Here's what I'll say. New Mexico probably is safe at this point. Polling shows Hillary leading by like 14 points, which is not in the safe margin, but it's pretty much safe at this point. Colorado, on the other hand, is this new kind of swing state. Polling does show him up, Joe Biden up by a considerable amount, but I don't think it's enough essentially to put it as a safe state. I would put this one as likely, although it might be trending towards that direction as well. The state of Virginia is another interesting one. It's this new kind of swing state. Essentially, the Virginia Republican Party is not really doing that well at the moment. And I think that Joe Biden has a pretty good chance of carrying it. I think, honestly, it's in between likely and safe. I would accept safe as a characterization here. Now, I think a couple more likely states. I'll talk about Montana. Montana is an interesting pick here, in that Montana usually does vote for the Republican on the national level. So they voted for Trump, they voted for Mitt Romney, they voted for McCain. I think the last time they voted for a Democrat was Bill Clinton. I don't think that Joe Biden has much of a chance of carrying it because of that. So I think I would honestly put Montana as safe. Is it trending to the left a little bit? Kind of. I think maybe polling definitely shows a close. I mean, I don't want to say close because it's not close, but a closer race. But I think I would honestly put this one as safe here.
Yeah,
Eric,
I
what do
agree.
you think about that? Yep. All right. Shall we head to the lean states now?
Yeah. All right. Let's see what there is.
Eric, why don't you talk about Texas first? I'll start by saying that I do agree with this. I think likely is the right choice here. It's honestly either likely or tilt at this point. Go ahead, Eric. Oh, did I say likely? I meant lean. I meant lean or tilt.
Yeah, so I agree with Lucas that this is like a lean-ish. So Niskanen did a good job because they didn't go too far to classify this as a tilt like some do. but they're also not living under a rock in that sense that they're just putting it as safe. At the end of the day, though, I think Donald Trump is going to take the state again, not in the margin that he expected a few months ago, but in a lot less of a margin. He still has the secured, safe Republican votes. This is only a new, like tilt lean. No, not I shouldn't say tilt. This is kind of like a new lean state. It's one of the states that we think will go kind of purplish, but still kind of lean to the Republicans, which is crazy because a few months ago we really wouldn't think this, but now it's becoming more and more reality. We think it's becoming a lean and not really a safe. It's because of the spike in coronavirus cases that's really sparking some disapproval within the people of Texas, also because of their Hispanic electorate. They are in support of the Black Lives Matter movement. So those two big factors that is seen as a common theme throughout many states is taking a toll on Texas.
I absolutely agree, and I definitely agree with your point with like kind of that this has changed. I'm glad, like you said, that Niskanen is not just putting
Yep,
someone as a
Niskanen.
safe because it's obviously changed. And if you look at the polling shows Biden in the most recent Fox News poll, I think he was leading either 1 or 2 points, which is kind of shocking. So keeping that in mind, we can't solely rely on polling data, but it is getting a lot closer than definitely a safe margin. So I agree with a little lean or tilt on this one. Eric, why don't you head to the next state? How about you do the blue wall now?
Sure, we can do the blue wall. So we already talked about Minnesota. So I guess we can go to Wisconsin. They put Wisconsin as a lean. Um, I kind of agree with it because I think it's like in the lean or tilt margin, somewhere in between there. Because at the end of the day, just like with Texas, but the opposite, we do think Joe Biden is going to take the state. It is the most likely state that will go to the Republicans, but we still do think Biden does have more of a chance here. Donald Trump did take the state in 2016, but because of it being the epicenter of many Black Lives Matter protests and having quite a few coronavirus cases, not the most, but quite a few, I think people here are going to vote. Um, they're going to vote more Democratic, especially in this election, just due to the circumstances. Okay. Do you have anything to say, Lucas?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. And let's keep in mind that in 2016, Wisconsin's polling definitely didn't get it correct. But I think this time around, they're probably a little bit more taking into account a little bit more accurately this time. Polling shows Biden with a decent lead, and I do think that he will carry it at the end of the day. Um, I think maybe a tilt. I would say tilt for this one. It's definitely getting towards lean, but we still got to wait for more information before we can officially move it into this lean category.
Yep.
Eric, how about you head to
Or,
the next few states?
yep. So next you have Michigan, which they also put as a lean. In fact, I'll just say it. They put all the remaining blue wall states as a lean, but I'll start with Michigan. I do agree with this. Michigan has a bit of a more Democratic electorate. The governor, Gretchen Whitmer, was at one point considered to be a pick for Joe Biden's vice president. But either way, I feel like Michigan is going to go to the Democrats, just based on polling, based on what's going on, and also being another pretty significant epicenter of coronavirus.
I absolutely agree. And I do want to add another point to Wisconsin. I'm putting Wisconsin as between tilt and lean D. Michigan is at this point between a lean D and a likely D. And the reason for that is one, the African American electorate they have here. We could see increased turnout due to the recent Black Lives Matter movement, that those protests happening. And it's very close to the city of Minneapolis. And in my opinion, I do think Joe Biden has a very solid chance at winning the state because also of Trump's dwindling approval rating. So in my opinion, I think Joe Biden should be able to carry this one. Eric, why don't you head to the final state, Pennsylvania?
Yep. So as I said, Pennsylvania is also a lean, and I completely agree with this. I would put lean. In fact, they got the blue wall correct, which I'm pretty happy with because some people overshoot it with putting it too safe, or some just put it as toss up, like Real Clear Politics. So this is a good sweet spot. I really appreciate what they did here. So Joe Biden was born here. In Scranton, he didn't live much here, but it's his born. This is where he was born. I think I remember seeing on the news how he held some sort of a convention, not a convention, but like some sort of a rally here, which is not really common, but it was in Pennsylvania, so it's probably going to bring out more turnout. It's definitely going to be less of a competition than it was between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. We do think Biden will take this in a lean margin, just like Niskanen put on this map.
Yes, I completely agree. And I think we also need to take into account that Pennsylvania's approval rating of President Trump isn't that great at the moment. So I do think that Joe Biden will likely win this state. Actually, I don't want to use the word likely, but I think it's going to be in a lean margin. It's obviously a lot less towards likely than Michigan, but I think it's still in between lean and likely. I agree with this prediction here. The only thing that I don't agree with is Wisconsin. I would put this one as tilt. Although possibly in the future, it might get kind of closer. But right now, I'd give it a tilt. All right. Let's see. What else can we do? Arizona. I think Arizona, they got this one right. Maybe a lean is a little bit too generous. I would probably give this one tilt. It's in between tilt and lean. And just like the other states, it's definitely trending towards the direction of becoming a lean state. The reason why I'm putting this one as tilt is although polling does show a high lead, it is kind of a new kind of swing state. We got to remember that just 8 years ago, I believe, Mitt Romney versus Barack Obama, just 8 years ago, this state went to Mitt Romney by 9 points. Obviously, that has changed in 2016 when it just went to Trump by 3 points. Last year in the midterms, the Democrats were able to flip a seat in the House of Representatives. So I think that it's just kind of this new kind of swing state. Although there is a pretty high Hispanic population here that probably will be turning out and voting for Joe Biden. Polling shows a good lead for Joe Biden. Honestly, it's dead in the middle for me between tilt and lean. It can be either one. I would go with tilt for now, but I think it's definitely moving towards the direction of a lean. Eric, what do you think about that?
Yep, I totally agree. I think lean is a sweet spot for Arizona. Again, not too much, but not too little. It's somewhere in between a lean and a tilt, though, because again, it's a new type of swing state. So, but at the end of the day, we do think it's going to go to Joe Biden.
Absolutely. Alrighty. Let's head now to the last lean state, New Hampshire, the only state in the Northeast. Well, I don't want to say Northeast because it's Pennsylvania. Well, one of the only states in the Northeast that's technically a swing state, although it's pretty much going to the Democrats many times before. Polling shows Biden at about a 4.6 points. I believe, was it 3 or 4.6? I think it was 4.6. Hillary Clinton carried the state by 3%, which is pretty bad in the state of New Hampshire. That's gone to the Democrats since George W. Bush. I think it's likely, I believe, using past history, I think it's probably going to Joe Biden. And although polling does show him not in that great of lead, it's basically almost a likely at that point. So I think this one's likely. Eric, what do you think?
Yep, I totally agree. It's for New Hampshire. I think it's probably going to be a likely because
it's also the demographics too. Yeah, I think.
Yeah, the demographics. Yeah. It's more of a Democratic vote than a Republican vote. It's also surrounded by a lot of safe Democratic states, so it would make sense why this is.
Completely agree. Yeah, and I also do want to add a point that we don't like to solely rely on past elections because obviously things have changed, can change a lot between election years. Like we look at Arizona, look at that swing, and probably the blue wall states too swung a lot too from 2012 to 2016. So I think the demographics in New Hampshire probably will favor the Democrats here. So I think Joe Biden will carry the state. Okay, cool. Eric, why don't you discuss Florida?
Yep. So they put Florida as toss-up. At this point, this is one where I really don't agree. It's probably going to go to Joe Biden just because of what's going on. Florida is a state, you probably all know already, they have like 10,000 daily cases. It's getting really bad there. Stay safe if any of our viewers are from Florida, but like people really don't appreciate how Ron DeSantis, the Republican governor of Florida, dealt with the situation. He didn't really close down the country until really recently, and even then he didn't completely close it down, which
Close down the state, you mean, right?
What did I say?
You said close down the country.
Whoops, close down the state. And again, even then he didn't close it down completely. So this kind of infuriated the Democrats here. And also, Black Lives Matter movement is happening here. The Hispanic electorate is in support of this movement. So more likely than not, it's going to go to Joe Biden, and probably like a lean margin. If anything, tilt. But like there has to be some sort of Democratic lead here, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would put this one as tilt. Polling shows a giant lead for Joe Biden here. I believe a 6-point lead about. According to RCP, it was a likely margin when we did our polls video, I think a week or a few days ago. And Trafalgar Group, very interesting. They actually released a new poll showing a 46-46 tie between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. If you don't know, Trafalgar Group does usually overestimate the Republicans. Very interesting to see that it's a tie here. That is definitely not a good sign for President Trump. I would give this one tilt. It's moving towards the direction of lean. It's nearly there. Let's also head to the state of North Carolina. North Carolina, this is at this point, pretty much a swing state. It formerly used to always go to the Republicans. The last time it went to a Democrat was 2008. And before 2008, I think you got to go a while back, like 70s, to see it go to a Democrat, the state of North Carolina. Obviously, North Carolina does look pretty favorable for Joe Biden at the moment. Polling shows him leading. And also, we got to remember that North Carolina has a pretty large African-American electorate here that will probably turn out in larger numbers as a result of the recent events. And we've seen protests in the city of Charlotte, and turnout will probably be higher for the African Americans here. I would give this one tilt. I think toss-up is perfectly okay because it is a little debatable. When we first started this channel, we put North Carolina as a lean. That was before all the Black Lives Matter movements began and the George Floyd killing. But things have obviously changed since then. I think tilt or toss-up was a good characterization there. Also, the state of Georgia. Eric, why don't you discuss Georgia?
Yep. So they also put Georgia as a toss-up. I really don't think it's there yet. Maybe again, if the path that Georgia's having right now continues, maybe it's going to be a toss-up, and I would agree. But just at the moment, it's not there yet. Again, this used to be a safe state, along with the whole South, Alabama, Mississippi, and South Carolina. It definitely isn't anymore. It's probably still a lean going on to a tilt, just because of what happened here, and the Rashard Brooks police brutality, and how the mayor here, Keisha Lance Bottoms, responded to it, and people are in support of that. It's kind of going to be a lean state, but definitely not a toss-up.
Yeah, I agree. I would give a slight edge to President Trump. Actually, I don't want to say it's too slight because I do think it's a lean. I think it's within a lean state. I think there should be an edge for President Trump here, considering how kind of deep it's kind of a pretty deep red state. 2018, Stacey Abrams did run for governor, came really close to winning, but Brian Kemp obviously won that governor election. It's swinging more to the left. I don't disagree with that, but I just think this election, not quite yet, will be going to the Democrats. Texas is probably more favorable for President Trump than Georgia is right now. Georgia does look like it's in between tilt and lean. And I will now be heading to the state of Iowa. Iowa is a more conservative area. It did go to Barack Obama in 2012 and 2008. Polling does show Donald Trump does have a pretty solid. I don't want to say so. No, polling does show that President Trump has a very tiny lead here, 1 to 2%. I don't know why I said solid, but disregard that. Anyways, Iowa, in my opinion, it's tilt or lean Republican at this point. We put it as Republican in our prediction, and I think we're going to stand by that for the moment now until more polls do come out and we can have other things to judge based off of. Ohio, a little bit different scenario. As of now, Joe Biden is in the lead in polling. So I think we've moved the state from lean to tilt as that new polling came in. And I think Ohio will probably be a pretty close one. So I think it's going to be an interesting one to watch. Yeah. And I will also head to, Eric, why don't you cover NEO2?
All right. So the Niskanen put Nebraska's 2nd district as toss-up. I completely agree. It's getting more and more of a close race, and more sites, including us, are even calling this as a toss-up because this is a highly populated area in a smaller space. So we know what that means. It's probably a city there, which there is, Omaha, big city, Nebraska, and a rule of thumb, bigger cities tend to have a more democratic electorate. So this is why it's toss-up. It's going to be really close. It's a small congressional district in a safe Republican state. So we really don't know what's going to happen.
It'll definitely be very interesting to see, but at the moment, it's going to be very, very close. Eric, why don't you also head to MEO2? Sorry, MEO2.
Yep. So this is Maine's 2nd district, big congressional district, not much population, and using a rule of thumb, these people tend to vote more conservatively. And they do. We think that this is going to be a tilt, and I'm really surprised how they put it as toss-up. I don't think it's there yet. Maybe, again, if something happens that really hits the whole country, then it will. But right now, I think it's a lean Republican state.
Or at the most, maybe a tilt. We don't have any polling here, but it's pretty rural, so I think that it's probably going to go to President Trump. It's obviously going to be a really slim margin, and it's still competitive, but there's a slight lead to President Trump here. All right. That's it, I believe. Did we hit all of them? I think we did hit all of them.
Yeah.
Very nice.
If we talked about Maine's 1st district and all state in general, yeah, I think we hit all of them.
I think what's interesting is if President Trump does carry all these toss-ups, he still doesn't win the election. We can actually plot that out right now. If he were to carry all of these states, he still wouldn't win.
In context, you need 270 electoral votes to win.
So, I think that one of Hillary Clinton's biggest mistakes was not campaigning harder here. She should have locked these in first. Look at that. Even if you give the state of Arizona to President Trump, Joe Biden still wins. So I think Joe Biden will likely learn from those lessons that mistakes that Hillary Clinton made to kind of avoid that issue that Hillary Clinton had without locking down this blue wall beforehand. Yep. Anyways, that is the end of the video for today. Thank you all so much for watching. If you like this video, please hit the like button. If you like our content, please hit subscribe. We'll see you in our next episode tomorrow.
See ya.